It is the second week of August, 1863. Union forces are slowly advancing across the swamps of Johns, James, and Morris Island. Union troops have already captured and destroyed Fort Wagner and have Fort Johnson in their sights. Union ironclads await to test the Charleston harbor defenses. During this week, the Union has the advantage, and both sides have no military support points left from previous weeks. In this turn, the Confederates can construct entrenchments by only having 4 combat factors in a particular area. On to the MSP table. The Union will have 4 MSPs and the Confederates 3. Now the Union allocates MSPs to activate formations. 5 Union ironclads at S6 are placed in command, and Foster's brigade is placed in command. Now we proceed to the Confederate MSP allocation. The Confederates will spend 1 MSP to try to advance the training of the Hunley's crew. Because they're only spending 1 MSP, there's no die roll modifier. If they would spend 2 MSPs, there would be a -1. On a 1 or 2, the Hunley's status marker will advance 1 space. We roll 1d6. The roll is a 4. The Hunley's status marker remains where it is, no change. And the Confederates will place Cobb's brigade in command. It is currently in the Georgia and East Florida districts off map box. And after allocating MSPs, the Union has 2 MSPs left and the Confederates 1. Now on to the operations phase. First, impulse, and the Union activates the 5 ironclads at S6. They move into S7. Now we reveal the 2 mines/obstruction markers in S7. One is a dummy and the other one a 2 marker. We remove the dummy. And the mine obstruction marker attacks each of the Union's ironclads. Let's take a look at the applicable modifiers and possible results. Here we see the mine/obstruction/Hunley attack table. We roll 2d6, and on a result of 11 or higher, there will be some effect. If it's an 11 or 12, the ironclad is flipped to its damaged side. If already damaged, it immediately sinks. On a 13 or more, the ironclad is damaged and removed either to Port Royal or Cape Hatteras. Note that the applicable die roll modifiers are +1 if it is a 2-point mine obstruction marker, and that's the case. There's a +1 for each unreduced Confederate fort adjacent to the sea area, and the only unreduced fort that is adjacent to S7 is Fort Sumter. So we're at +2, and the other possible die roll modifier does not apply because the ironclads Keokuk and New Ironsides are not involved in this attack. So we begin with the Passaic, and we roll 2d6. An 11 modified to a 13, and the Passaic is damaged. And now it has to be removed to Cape Hatteras or Port Royal, and it leaves for Port Royal. Next is the Patapsco. 7 modified to a 9, no effect. Now we roll for the Nahant. A close call, 8 modified to a 10, no effect. Now the Weehawken. A 9 modified to an 11, so the Weehawken is damaged, and we flip it to its damaged side. And finally we roll for the Montauk. A 6 modified to an 8, no effect. Now the Union ironclads will bombard Fort Sumter. Start with the Patapsco, and we start with its combat factor of 1, and for each friendly uncommitted ironclad there's 3 additional, so we're at +4. Note that there's no +1 because the target is in an adjacent area. Fort Sumter is in its own area, which is a land and sea area at the same time. And then there's a -2 because the bombarding ironclad is in an area with a non-dummy mines obstruction marker with a value of 2. So the final die roll modifier, a +2, and Fort Sumter defends with double its defense value, so that's an 8. Now we roll 2d6. The result is a 5 modified to a 7, no effect. So that first ironclad failed. Now it's the Nahan's turn, and this time it's just with a +1 die roll modifier. And the roll is a 7 modified to an 8, just enough to flip Fort Sumter's marker to its damaged side. Now it's the Weehawken's turn, and there's no modification. And the roll is a 6, no effect. And finally, the Montauk with a -1 die roll modifier. And the roll is a 4 modified to a 3, no effect. That's the end of the Union first impulse. Now we go to the Confederate first impulse. Cobb's brigade was placed in command. It is in the Georgia and Florida district off-map box. It will use strategic movement, which will allow it to move 2 areas or zones to move into the adjacent 3rd and 4th district zone. And from there, it will move into L23. And it could split its cavalry to move 1 more area, but then a regroup action would be needed to have the whole formation together again. So Cobb's brigade ends its activation there. Now to the Union second impulse. The Union activates Foster's brigade, and it will cross the navigable river shown there in area R7 to move into L14, and it announces an assault on elements of Anderson's brigade. Applicable modifiers: +8 for the Union, +6 for the Confederates. Union rolls a 7 modified to a 15. The Confederates a 5 modified to an 11. So the Union wins the fight, and the Confederates have to sustain 4 casualty points. The Confederates reduce one of their cavalry units and retreat another to fulfill the 4 casualty points, and Foster's brigade has finished its activation. And the Union has no more MSPs. The Confederates don't have any, so they pass. Now we move on to the third impulse. The Union must use the advantage, otherwise it will be passed to the Confederates anyway, so they will use it for the purpose of reactivating a formation or group of units. The Union will activate Foster's brigade once again for an assault against Anderson's troops. This time the Union's modifiers a +7, the Confederates a +5. The Union roll is a 9 modified to a 16, the Confederates a 5 modified to 11. The Union wins again, 5 casualty points to be absorbed by the Confederates. The Confederates flip one of their units to satisfy 3 casualty points and retreat their remaining units into L16. Now, Anderson's command is unified at L16, but to do so, they've given up L14. That's the end of the Union impulse. The Confederates have no MSPs with which to activate units. Same situation with the Union, and the Union has spent its advantage. So it's the end of the operations phase. Now to the end phase, and we remove all committed markers. because the Union ironclads are in an area together with a Confederate ironclad, the Union ironclads now have to return to Port Royal or Cape Hatteras. And they return to Port Royal. Now we move on to random events. The roll is a 7, no event. That's the end of the second week of August. Union forces have resumed their march on Fort Pemberton. Union naval forces have damaged the defenses of Fort Sumter. However, 2 Union ironclads are also damaged. The next week will bring reinforcements to the Union in the form of the ironclad Lehigh and Gordon's brigade. The Union needs to capture 3 more victory areas or 2 more and deploy the Swamp Angel. So stick around for the next turn of A Gate of Hell. This is Stuka Joe, signing off for now. Thanks for watching.